Victories and defeats. It feels great when we have a victory. Whenever we think that we've caught them in a catastrophe or finally have them backed into a corner, it can feel amazing. Like finally the situation is changed. Finally we're getting some resolution. One of the things is true about this is they contribute to their own demise. They are going to do things to help you with those victories. As soon as we calm down and we can look at what's going on and we have a firm grasp of what we're dealing with, then we can start to pinpoint their actions and their behaviors and the consequences of it to deal with it, especially whenever we're trying to go through court. One of the things that you have to do is you have to remain vigilant and you have to keep your guard up. It's one of the things that you're going to notice with narcissistic personality disordered people is they don't give up without a fight. I don't know how many times I've heard, even in my own situation and in talking to other people, you can feel like you've backed them into a corner, you have them exposed, and you think that you have a victory. This is where you need to be really cautious, because until it's over and you actually have that win, everything is still in motion and everything is still in play. And you have to remember, like I just said before, is they don't give up. The tenacity and the perseverance that these people have to continue with their onslaught, with their false narrative, with their illusion of what they're dealing with is incredible. I've talked about my situation a lot, and within where I'm coming up on the 5 years of divorce, close to 6 years of separation, and I'm still dealing with a lot of the same, well, actually all the same behavior and same situation I was dealing with before. The big difference now is the way I interact with it, the way I deal with it, which mitigates and minimizes a lot of those actions. But it's still an ongoing situation that doesn't really seem to stop. If I think or I expect that my ex is going to give up without a fight, or think that she's lost and not fight anymore, that is completely naive. So if you're in a situation where you think that you have them up on the up against the rails, that everything's coming together, and it might be, I'm not saying that that the situation is going to change. You just have to be incredibly careful that you keep your guard up, you keep focused on the end goal, and you do not make mistakes or you underestimate your enemy. I mentioned previously in a different video, I think it was in a live stream, a friend of mine who went through a situation where they thought that were going to get their kids back. His soon-to-be ex at the time had taken the kids out of state, and he had everything lined up and thought that he had her checkmated. He didn't anticipate the tenacity and the effectiveness of his ex. What ended up happening is she came into court with people, with backup, who smeared him, made him out to be basically just a horrible person, neglectful, a danger to his kids. So he walked into court feeling like he had everything wrapped up, like I was talking about, and that he was going to be able to get full custody, have the whole thing switch, and basically that he was walking in going to win. He didn't have his guard up. He thought that he was good. He wasn't anticipating a counterattack. Walked into court. Some mutual friends basically threw him under the bus, basically made some accusations under oath about him, and the judge completely obliterated his case, gave the kids to his ex, child support, and all the other things that go along with it. And it was a huge setback for him. So the next thing is, if you do have one of those setbacks, don't give up. Just because something goes wrong doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It can feel like it. It can feel like everything is turned against you, but just because something happens doesn't mean that it's all over. You have to learn from what you do, learn from the mistakes that you've made, if you've made any, take a step back, readdress, reattack, and come at it again. This is why perseverance is critical in these situations. You have to have the ability to take these attacks or these defeats and take a step back and not have it destroy your complete momentum and everything you're working to accomplish. It can be really tough because sometimes these things are really, they hurt a lot. Sometimes when these things happen, it's inevitable. If you look at our situation and then you look at how we feel on these things, we get to the point where the fighting and the stress and the defeats and the little victories and all that stuff just rolled in together can feel like it's just not worth it. Unfortunately, on the other side, like I mentioned before, these people have incredible stamina to continue on with this fight. It's like they live in their own illusion, their own fantasy land, their own facade of what's going on, and that is their absolute reality, and they can't falter from it. In our situation, we're trying to balance reality with what our perception is, and it gets to us. We feel what's going on, and we feel the stress, and we feel the anxiety and everything that goes along with that. So it's really common for us to get beat down and low. That's normal. If you have those days and you have that problem where you feel like you just can't make any headway, or like I said before, like the system is stacked against you, you just have to find the perseverance to continue on, continue with the fight, and keep the ultimate goal in mind of what you're trying to do. And that goal is to have as much time with our children as possible to mitigate the impacts of these other people. It's critical. The more time we have, the better chance we have to make positive changes in their lives. Now, that doesn't mean that if your situation turns out to where you're a weekend parent, every other weekend parent, or maybe you only see them a few times a year. Any moment that you have is an opportunity for you to try to help them, for you to try to instill that antidote to all of this mess. Now, obviously, the more time you have to do that is better, but even if it's just a little bit of time, there still is that opportunity. Personally, I believe we can ultimately win this whole fight, but it just is going to take time. We have to have the same amount of perseverance to deal with the victories and the defeats going through this that they do. We have to be able to stick with the fight. We have to be able to not give up, stay focused on what we're doing, make sure that we're not making mistakes, and make sure we're not fueling the other person or giving them ammunition to use against us. This can be really tough. It can be demoralizing sometimes when things just seem to be falling apart. You just have to have the perseverance and the strength to stick with it, because even if you do have some defeats, you're still going to have victories. They might be small. We've talked about that in the past. They might be minor victories. They might be micro victories, but they're still there. So if you've been struggling with victories and defeats and how to deal with that, and you want to talk about it, leave it in the comments below. We've had a lot of folks who've been really successful recently in a lot of different things. I'm sure that they could chime in and share some of their experiences. And just know that it's a long process. It takes a while. It's not easy, even though it may feel like it should be easy. Unfortunately, it isn't. A lot of times it feels like we should go in, they should be just, the mask comes off, they're exposed, and everything is going to play out the way it should. And unfortunately, that's not really how the whole system works, which is unfortunate. But leave those comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, please subscribe. You can do that over there. And I will chat with you guys on the next video. Take care. Bye.